Anyway, as a matter of fact, at the year end, I like to do a lot of things, including paperwork. I like to review the year 2019. As it's my New Year's tradition between Christmas and New Year's every year. I have all of my financial information done so that on January the 2nd, it is typed up and ready to go to my accountant for my upcoming income taxes that everybody will be paying in April, except Donald Trump, the president of the United States. He won't be paying any. And that involved in all the other projects and things that I did over my time off. That it takes up a lot of time because I'm a compulsive record keeper. I write down in the spiral notebook by hand every amount of money I spend over $5 and what it's for, and I get a receipt. And I write down every amount of money I take in, obviously over $5. I don't take in a lot of amounts of money under $5. I don't panhandle for a lot of change. And at the end of the year, I compile all this stuff and I hand it right to my accountant for business. And I see what this does not surprise you because you know how anal I am, right? Well, thank you. Yeah.
I meant, it doesn't surprise me. Not necessarily about how anal you are.
Well, yeah, it was a very unenthusiastic, but anyway. But no, and also you examine what have I done this past year, and what do I want to do more of, and what do I want to do less of? And 2019 was, if I had the physical and mental capacity and duration and endurance and strength to have a couple more years of irrelevance like this, I would never have to work again ever in my life. It's been a very successful year. All things considered, the best one I've ever had. It was fucking hard. So I decided I was going to examine and evaluate everything I did and remove the headaches and the stress and the pressure, right? It's a good plan, right? I'm going to do more of the good stuff and less of the bad stuff. This is an idea that I should start out the year with. Don't you agree?
I think it's a fine way to start out the year. Calm and reflective.
Yes.
Figuring things out. Yeah.
So the podcasts, both the Jim Cornette Experience and the Drive-Thru, have set records all year. Every month we keep saying this. Every month it becomes true for number of downloads. Would you say that now, just at the rate of the last couple of months, if we're doing this over the next 12 months, that both Experience and the Drive-Thru will be downloaded over 20 million times in the course of 2020?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And that's not counting YouTube, obviously.
No, at all. You're jumping ahead of me. Because so the podcasts are more popular than ever before. And most of the time, except when you make me just watch some of this shit that I just hate to watch.
Me?
We have good time. Well, and the people demand it. And that is what the people want. But otherwise than that, we normally have a good time having these little gab fests with each other. So we want to do more of the podcast. Podcasts are the good stuff. Very successful. And the YouTube. We've also, now that we've got some of the previous problems we'd had out of the way, like unwanted partnerships and various channel mix-ups, YouTube is another. We've had record downloads over the last 6 months of the year, and I don't even know how to count that high as far as how many. It'll be a ridiculous amount, like 500 million minutes on YouTube over the course of fucking 2020, just at this pace right now. Some fucking ridiculous number like that.
And just to clarify, not downloads.
No, not downloads, but minutes. That's what I'm saying. 500 million minutes of people somewhere in this world listening to a minute of me on YouTube in the course of 2020 is ridiculous. And once again, may show the fucking taste of many of the American. But no, I'm kidding. We do a great show. So we want to do more of the YouTube, and we're going to be expanding the podcast and expanding the YouTube and doing more of the internet projects with special audio and all kinds of stuff. We're going to do more of these things because they were very positive in 2019, right? Behind the Curtain. The graphic novel blew away IDW Publishing's expectations. With the hardcover sellout, the sellout of the first round of soft covers in Amazon and in the bookstores, and going into the second printing and selling briskly now in softcover on JimCornette.com. Again, I am told by folks in the industry that once that you're in 5-figure sales for a graphic novel of any genre these days, that's considered very, very good and surprising, except all but maybe the tippy top stuff. So that was a success, and obviously we're not looking at doing more immediately because the current one is still selling briskly. Autographed copies available at JimCornette.com. But that's obviously something we want to do more of, and I've been talking to you off the air. I've got 2 different book projects that over the next 18 months, they're not going to both come out. One of them is going to be, I won't say easier, but one of them is going to be more of an everyday publication. One of them is going to be something really special. So at any rate, 2 projects, and one of them is going to be pretty sharp. It's going to take up a lot of my time this year, but we got 2 book projects because we want to do more of those. We did Midnight Express reunions. This in Nashville, outside of Charleston, West Virginia, down here in Madison for Gary Damron, Richmond, Virginia, Charlotte, North Carolina. Finally got Knoxville, Tennessee at the Bobby Eaton Tribute Show. And that was, once again, everything was fucking fabulous with those, not only to see Bobby and Dennis and Stan at several of them. The Rock and Roll Express were at a bunch. Bobby Fulton, as I mentioned, was at a bunch. And just so many of the guys that, you know, that I used to work with. It was exciting and had fun doing those. And I definitely want to do more of them. I'm not saying we're going to do them quickly, as we'll go over our live dates here in a little while. We've got one more Midnight Express reunion for Bobby Fulton in Circleville, Ohio in March that's on the books. I'm not against doing more, but I'm not going to be doing any live events past what I've already got for the next 6 months and probably for most of the year, if not all of it. But the Midnight Express reunions were fun. It got Dennis energized, and he wanted me to let the fans know this also, just that, you know, after what the 3 or 4 years of the health challenges that he had been through and the different treatments and the different procedures, coming out the last year and seeing everybody, and not only that they remember him, that it wasn't just the modern era Midnight with Stan from pay-per-view, but that they remember Dennis and what he contributed has really got him back in good spirits, and we appreciate that. So if I can and I have time, more Midnight Express reunions, but get them while they're hot. C2E2 this past year in Chicago was huge. The live show was sold out. Have a beef with Jim Cornette, where Al's Chicago #1 Italian beef. If it's good enough for Bob Luce, and it's good enough for you motherfuckers to shove down your neck. Met tons of fans at the Comic-Con itself. As we mentioned on the program afterwards, that's the hardest I've ever worked at a Comic-Con and the farthest I've ever walked in one weekend, but it was a great experience overall. And actually, one of the only Comic-Cons I did, I didn't do any comic book business this past year. Not my graphic novel, but I'm talking about collectible comic books, which I've been doing steadily for the last several years. I just didn't have time. So that's one thing. I'm going to be at LexCon this year in March instead of C2E2. That's why I wasn't at LexCon last year, because I was in Chicago. But I'm also going to try to do a little bit more with my comic books, because I have been slacking off and I got a bunch more wrestling shit in the vault. So I got to make some room somewhere. So that was good stuff, right? Dark Side of the Ring, the biggest hit on Vice TV ever in the history of Vice TV. They were running marathons of it, daily for 12-hour blocks. It turned out people didn't know what to think, but they saw it turned out to be a great series. The reenactments are incredible. The amount of attention to detail that Jason and Evan both, the producer and the director, had, and the insistence on accuracy. They talked to every side of the issue they could get. They researched things. They talked to neutral people to try to, put these things together. And so now this year there's going to be twice as many episodes in the second season, and I'll be in twice as many of them as I was in the first season. And we're going to have details when it's available on exactly when it's going to be. I mean, they're still in production. This is not like anything that's imminent, folks, but this show is going to, or this season of this show is going to be the best wrestling documentary series ever produced by anybody, WWE or no, I think, just from the advance gaga that I've gotten. And that's saying something. So everything has been successful so far, Brian. Do you notice anything?
I don't know.
No wrestling yet.
Well, that's true. Good point.
The only stress and pain in the ass and headache or whatever that I had all year came from when involved with wrestling promoters. And I shouldn't even say wrestling promoters because I didn't have any problem with Court Bauer. He's a promoter, but just wrestling. Whether it was even the Fanboy Comic Con I tried to go to, but I was dealing with a wrestling promoter, Tony Hunter. The one fucking comic convention that fucks up is when I'm dealing with a wrestling promoter. And as I said, I didn't have any problem with Court Bauer, but I did the fill-in for MLW, and everybody loved the announcing. And, you know, there was never crossword with anybody except then at the end of the last day on everybody's part. I end up in the stupid shoot work with a warthog, which is all now that anybody remembers or talks about of the whole. I did the MLW TV for 20 straight weeks, and everybody remembers the controversy with fucking Callahan, where I was the only one that was working instead of shooting. He was really mad and really got fired, and I didn't know about any of it. We've told that story. I'm not going to go through it again. But just the drama and the fucking stupid. That's what, when you deal with modern pro wrestling or pro wrestlers, you deal with stupid, silly people that don't get the fucking picture. And so in this case, I ended up in a shoot work with a fucking guy who had asked me a month and a half previously to fucking work with him to continue shooting on it. I don't fucking know. So there's a headache. And I did one pay-per-view and one set of TV tapings for the NWA, and all anybody remembers is a fucking chicken joke. And once again, explaining it, joke or no, we've already established whether you liked it or you didn't. Other people thought it was hilarious. Other people didn't give a shit either way. Whatever the fuck, whatever your side of the fence, whatever side of the road your chicken was on, we've pretty much established that the level of outrage was manufactured, and that anybody who was hopping up and down mad about that line has probably never been out in public. But even if Liverlip Lagana, and that should be Dave Lagana's jazz name, by the way, Dave Liverlip Lagana, if he takes up the fucking jazz clarinet, whether he had taken any fucking credit for the edit or not, or whether he had wanted to fucking roll over for the fucking pussy fans on the fucking internet or not, here was again more headache and more pain in the ass, because what was going to be the next fucking line that everybody was going to decide to get fucking cranked up about? And it wasn't fun anymore at that point. So the stuff that I was doing for the least amount of money, that also required the hardest physical and mental work, that required me to make long ass drives in shitty weather and spend days and nights in the hotels away from homes, getting very little sleep, brought me more aggravation and headache than everything else that I was doing combined. What should I do from heretofore going forward, do you think?
Bye-bye wrestling.
And I said, this is funny because I remember a couple years ago, I said, I've said this several times, and I keep somehow involving myself in this again because it's a habit. It's an addiction. I feel like I'm supposed to, at some point in the year or whatever, do something in wrestling anymore. Still. But 2 years ago, after the fucking TNA fiasco, where I do a week's worth of television tapings for Jeff Jarrett, and within 2 weeks after I get back from home, he's fired. The company moves to another country. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I think I said to you at that point, I don't care if I'm ever on TV again or not. Did I not at that point?
Oh, you certainly did.
You certainly did, but I never learned. So anyway, do not expect me to see me involved in any live events involving wrestling, except the big event in Circleville. There's going to be matches going on, but there's also going to be a Midnight Express and Four Horsemen reunion and a whole bunch more stuff. But don't expect to see me around anything actually involving wrestling matches, because I can't win anymore either also. Because then if I'm not on the most perfect wrestling show that was ever done, and there's something wrong with it, then people are going to say, oh, Cornette, he won't knock his own show, even though I'm saying, man, he just knocks the other shows. And I'm not going to stop knocking the other shows, because that's what we kind of do these days. So I will remove myself from being felt as being having a vested interest in something. So more comic book business, more podcasts, more YouTube, couple more books, couple of DVD projects, no live wrestling. And for the majority of 2020, at least, very few live events of any kind. So we mentioned Circleville, March 14th for World Classic Professional Big Time Wrestling, a.k.a. Bobby Fulton and Hines Promotions. It will be a fan fest and a live event. And right now, it's the only Midnight Express reunion we've got scheduled for 2020 with myself and Bobby and Dennis. And on that event, as I said, we'll have Bobby Fulton on the program next week, talk about that, and Pampero Firpo. But on that event, my payoff and merchandise money that we do with the Express with the meet and greet will go to a charity in Circleville. There's, as everybody knows, that Bobby Fulton has announced that he was diagnosed with throat cancer. And in Circleville and up in Chillicothe and out in the outlying areas, there's a lot of cancer patients that have to go to Columbus, to the big medical centers to have their treatments. And either they don't have anybody to take them, people can't get off of work, or they don't have the means to go or whatever. And there's an organization, and I've lost the name of it, but Bobby will have it for us, that helps provide rides and transportation to these patients in the outlying areas into Columbus or into wherever in Ohio, wherever the bigger metropolitan area is, to get their cancer treatments. And Bobby's been working with them, and I think we're going to do something at the show also. So my payoff and merchandise money is going to go to that group, which we'll talk about more next week. And then March 26th through 29th, LexCon. They're advertising 4 days this year. My God, pretty soon it's going to be Lex Week. But it keeps getting so much bigger. There'll be 40,000 people converging on Lexington Center and the Rupp Arena complex there in Lexington at the end of March. I will have copies of Behind the Curtain there. I'll be autographing, and we're going to do all kinds of stuff. Probably have comic books too again this year. I'm not bringing the rare toys because they're hard to transport without getting nervous about getting them beat up. But we will be there all weekend and having fun. And this August, Charlotte the Gathering 2 from T-Mart Promotions, where everybody has fun in Charlotte. That's our summer vacation. There may be one or two more. It will not be before June at least. And otherwise, that's where you'll see me in public, if you will, in the year 2020.